Hi, good evening. Oh, I see. There are no people on the call. Um, what do we do? How you guys doing? I think Emmanuel is here. How you doing? About the pull request, I did not even check. Let me check that, by the way. Let me just check. What's your pull request about? Did you do some updates? Let's try to see that. GitHub.com. Let's see what you have in your pull request. Uh, okay. So I was thinking that we could get past this level, PHP, and maybe get some introduction to Laravel before you get into the project phase. Let me just see what the pull request is all about. Upload image. Let's see that. Edit block. All right. Let me see the code. We said post submit. Um, all right, Sugar. Firstly, you have to first of all know that um, my database doesn't have your fields. Like I can see insert into block data title category content. Where's add post? Result equal this fail to upload image. Um, so this is edit block.php. Sugar, I've noticed something that you like to work on the same file, like on the same file. Well, this will basically work, but let me try to check this. Let me see if I can pull this right now. Let me open the project. Mm, oh, okay, this CHT docs learning and wash through, I think. So I'm just going to try to pull this and see what we are going to get. But basically, you're supposed to you have issues cloning. What do you mean by have issues cloning? Are you trying to say that what you did? Let me just see that. Mm, Mm, let me pull if there is any update. Pull origin. Uh, what's the name of your branch? Let me check that. Well, I'm just going to try to mesh this. Hopefully it doesn't break code. Let's see. It's going to break my code. No. Uh, don't worry. The fact that I'm approving doesn't mean it works. Let me just get this. Okay. Uh, let me see what we have here. Okay. .php. All right. So first thing, you're already getting an error, sugar. If we want to update block, let me see what you have. According to your update block, you have a syntax error already. Look at this line. Content is equal to at post content. You forgot the dollar sign in front. And for example, this level, you're supposed to have a dollar sign content is equal to post content. And let's see where unexpected equal to. Mm, okay, so we have content, and I mean, there's a lot to work on your work. Did it work, Sugar? Like, did this code run for you? Were you able to execute it and it actually ran? Because I'm seeing a lot of errors. By the way, so I'm just going to copy this logic or update image, right? And come to user action, reset block single, update content video URL. Um, let's see what is there right now. If not empty files image name, then you should get the name and store it. And then the destination is root path. Let's see. Well, I think let's see. Unexpected else. Hmm. If else. Oh, sugar, how can you write code and not test? We cannot dwell on this. I think I'll try to review this in your DM. Maybe when you have time, we make a call and we try to test this together. I think that would be the best approach. I want us to get into something right now. But just the fact that you did not test is already uh, a reason for me not to merge your code, right? Um, when you write code, you need to first of all test and make sure that it runs on your system. Though your system is not the final determinant of if your code works, all right? But at least it should work on your system before you even try to create a pull request. Is that okay? So about this, I'm going to correct this later. I want us to switch to something else. Sugar, remind me so we get on a call anytime and work on this, all right? So that it can be meshed. All right, guys. So throughout, I think for the past 6 weeks, you've all been learning, is it PHP, right? We started from the level of let me go back to GitHub. Started from the level of PHP functions. I mean PHP like normal PHP. We went to functions, did some logic. We came to classes. Yeah, you have done a lot of PHP, and if you are actually following up, then transitioning from this point to Laravel is not going to be a problem. Let me see, PHP 2022. Where did I? 2022. It's already 2022. Let's see if it's here. All right, yeah. So with PHP, you started with normal variables. You went to some logic, you went to loops, you went to constants, you went to data types. Then you studied files. I think we spent a lot of time on files, and by now you should be able to manipulate files, right? Then we did sessions and operators, getting data from standard input, and after function, we transitioned a bit to object-oriented programming in PHP, and we've been on that for so long, right? So you can actually access this repository and get, mm, let's see, yeah, you can access this repository and get data. Like you can get updates, right? I'm planning to actually update it and document all of these things into a GitHub page, and I'd like some people to actually join me on it so that we are able to so that if somebody is able to just access the repository, he's able to actually get some knowledge on PHP. If possible, even add videos on it and so on. Okay, so we've been on this for so long, and the last things we've been doing were actually gradually transitioning us from PHP to a level where we have, uh, let's say, how do I put it? Uh, Most of the times, the code we've been writing, called that boilerplate, like manual code. I mean, you have to write thousands of classes, and yeah, manually have to learn to interact with each of those classes, manually import them, and yeah, that's a little bit stressful, which is not bad, right? That's what programmers do. You have to learn to do that. We'll be transitioning a little bit from PHP to Laravel. And what is the difference between PHP and Laravel? Now, before I even talk about that, um, what first of all is PHP? We know that PHP is a server-side scripting language that is open source, and it's applicable to build things like web applications, even APIs. Yeah, and mostly we call PHP language of the web because that's the main guy behind web applications. Now, Laravel, on the other hand, is kind of, let's call it PHP, but kind of organized PHP. All right. So Laravel is a PHP framework. And if we want to talk about a framework, um, let's talk a little bit about what a framework is, what is a web framework or whatever. Uh, um, So we get that it is a software that is designed to support the development of web application. Now, I wanted us to actually get this fact that it is used to support. What you'll be doing in web applications will be almost the same thing you will be doing in normal programming, but some differences will be that you will not have to mind about what is going on in the background. You concentrate more on what writing the logic and allowing the framework to do its organizations for you. All right. So a framework, like we said, is simply a software that is designed to support the development of, say, web application. If we're talking about framework, there is there are mobile frameworks and so on. So Laravel is one of the PHP framework that is very extensive and very popular. There are literally a lot of other frameworks, but Laravel is just one of them. So Laravel is a web framework with what they call expressive, elegant syntax. And because you have already gone through PHP, getting into Laravel is not much of a problem, especially if you understood the concept of object-oriented programming, because that is the basics of every framework. Most frameworks are built behind object-oriented programming. And let's talk about Laravel. We said it's a PHP web framework and it has several uses, right? Firstly, you could use it to build a full stack application, like an application that has both front end and back end. And with the fact that it has things like Blade involved, where you can actually do your front end. That's when you talk about monolith, right? A monolith application is application that has both the front end and the back end in one code base. Now, if you want to be a total backend developer, you will be working most of the times with APIs, right? Application Programming Interface. So what an API does is it sits on top of your database and the user is able to interact with that database only through APIs. All right. So Laravel can be used for the two to build um, a full stack application and also to build APIs that can be consumed by web applications, mobile applications, desktop applications, and so on. Now, what you need to know about Laravel and what makes it so good is the fact that it encapsulates a lot of things for you. The normal connection that you used to write to connect to the database, and yeah, all of those things are encapsulated for you in a way that you don't even need to know what is going on in the background. Just write the code and the framework does the work for you. So Laravel has what they call eloquent ORM, object relational mappers. Sorry about that. And it's a way that Laravel is going to actually map the classes you write into database tables that you can interact with. And we will get into that when you start hearing about yeah, we did MVC, right? You heard about model view controller. Yeah, Laravel encapsulate the whole of that for you, and yeah, you just get to interact with it. Now, there are aspects of Laravel called queues where you have to kind of, uh, just as the name states, queue a job. You can keep a job to be done. Maybe you want to send emails, for example, to some participants, say maybe tomorrow. I don't want to get up tomorrow and write the script to do it. There's what they call Laravel queues. You have WebSockets. You have authentication module that already exists. You just need to install it, and it's going to work for you. So Laravel is really, really very expressive. I mean, like very expressive. You get to interact a lot with the PHP you have written. And getting started with Laravel, I think you guys have gone through this. You have gone through the courses, the videos that are there for you, and the fact that they say, oh, when I was defining Laravel, I said it was an expressive, progressive framework. That means it actually grows with you. Like you start from the very basic, and I mean, as you are learning and going, you are unfolding a lot of other things, and it has the compatibility and scalability means no matter how big your web applications become, you still have Laravel can still handle it for you. Databasing and so on. So, and again, it's an open source framework, just like PHP is an open source programming language. So, a lot of other contributors have been writing code on this framework just to tell you how expressive it can be. Um, Getting started with Laravel, you need a lot of tools. You need some tools to get, not a lot. You need Composer because that's the package manager for PHP. You need Composer installed on your system. Then you can use Composer to create a Laravel project. Or you could install Laravel like manually on your system so that each time you want to create a project, you don't get to use a Composer create project. You just use Laravel new project name. Okay. So the PHP, the Laravel documentation actually gives you a lot of how to start with Laravel, and that is the first recommendation for you. You need to go through the documentation, and every programming languages has as first source of truth its documentation. So if you have not gone through the documentation and you're trying to get things from other places, it's cool, but yeah, you get the deep knowledge from the documentation, the underlying knowledge, and every other thing. So what you should know is that you need to install Laravel on your system, and to get Laravel, you need to install Composer. Now, there are several places where you can actually get the documentation on how to install Composer. Let me see. There is one on Gig for Gig, and even the Composer's main documentation, you can actually install Composer there. So to get Composer, you go to I think it's getcomposer.org. Yes, I think so. So to get Composer, you go to getcomposer.org, and you can get Composer from here. Like I said, it's a package manager for PHP. You download Composer, you want to read more about its documentation, you can actually go to documentation and you'll be able to see everything that is needed. Okay. Some people have not been able to install Composer or Laravel based on the fact that during the first assignment they did not follow instructions by installing the latest version of PHP. That is something you need to make sure you've done. So on this documentation, you see how to install Composer on Windows, all right? And you can also get it for Linux and Mac. Okay, so this documentation, I don't know if I'll be able to send messages on YouTube. Let me see. So if you can be able to see that message, or if you cannot see, just go to getcomposer.org and you're going to be able to uh, install Composer because documentation really explains everything for you. Okay. So once you have Composer installed, you can go ahead and get your Laravel app up and running. And to do that, let me see if I can open the folder that, let me check this terminal. So I'm just going to follow the documentation to get started with a Laravel app, right? So let me make sure I'm in the right directory. Um, okay, so I'm inside dev, and so I have my directory here. I want to make sure I'm inside the right folder. Okay, so let me see if this um, open folder. Well, so I could just create a new folder here called Laravel new, whatever. So I'm able to have that folder. And literally, there's nothing inside. You could literally go to terminal and create your project, but I'm still going to use the same terminal here. The terminal offered by VS Code is not different from our normal terminal. So send it to the left. So back to the Laravel main website or main documentation. You can use either Laravel new if you install Laravel and configure the path on your system, or you use this composer create project. So I'm just going to copy this, and on terminal I'm just going to paste this composer create project, then it's a Laravel project, then you give the project name. Okay, so I'll call it example app just the way it is. And on this we have our project. Like, it's going to take some time because it has to download all the packages needed for your project, and at the end you'll be able to see the outcome of that. So while it is installing, um, you need PHP, like you need PHP running on your system. You also need XAMPP on your system, but XAMPP is not totally necessary um, for Laravel, because except that your Laravel application needs a database which you will want to configure on XAMPP, or you have to install MySQL. Okay, so let's wait while our Laravel is installing. You see the number of packages it has to install for us. So I'm on 95%, and let's see. So you'll see that it scaffolds a lot of things for you. Like, many things come in play when you install the Laravel project. So I have my project up and running. Okay, so you see application key set and Laravel successfully installed. Let me clear this terminal, and if I open this folder now, you are going to see my Laravel application. Let me try to enlarge my screen now here. Mm, okay, so let me see this. So this is your Laravel application. I mean, you can see the folder structure. You have app, you have Bootstrap, you have this. Bootstrap is not Bootstrap for okay, this Bootstrap is not the Bootstrap for front end. This is like the startup for your application. You have configurations, and you have a lot of files in there. Like, you have configurations for app, for the app itself, which is also a class. You have to notice that all of these files, most of them are classes. Okay, so you have authentication, right? You have broadcasting, caching. All of this you get to learn them when you keep on learning. You also have your database. This is where what they call database seeding is done. Seeding is like feeding the database with data, right? Initial data at the beginning. And migration, this is kind of like a version control for your database table. So you see that you just create migrations, and once you have these migrations, right, and you run the migrations, it automatically creates your database tables for you. You also have this language for internationalization, which you are going to learn as you proceed. You have the public folder, where this is where things like images, CSS, and so on goes in. Okay, you have resources, and this is where your views go in, especially for you who wants to build a full stack application. Your views go in here. All right, so if I open the views, you get a default view called welcome.blade.php, and you have what they call blade templating for Laravel, which is simply like just simply the front end for a Laravel application, the default front end. Okay, you have route. I'm going to explain this later. You have storage. You have test when you want to write test for your application, and you have vendor, which has a lot of things, useful things that you might be needing in your application. Then there is this file called the .env in cases where you have to do some configurations like configure database, configure mailing, and so on. When you want to do that for your local environment, you use the .env. Okay, so if I open this, you actually see this, and you have the app name, the app env. I mean, all the configurations that you can think about. At the initial level, we want to talk just about this, the DB connection, the DB host, the port, and so on. So you see this. This is with this, it automatically connects to your database without you having to actually write all of those classes that will do the connection for you. So you see, there is a lot of abstraction in this. Uh, you might want to take time to study what is going on behind the scenes of a Laravel application. But for you who is just beginning, know that with just these credentials, you're able to actually get your database up and running. Now, with this, let me see. Since I am not using a database at the moment, right? Uh, Let me see this. Where is open the terminal? So I could start the Laravel. So there is this Laravel CLI command that you will use most of the time. So just like you have Composer install, Composer update, and so on, Laravel has its artisan, which is the command line for Laravel. So you use that to manage your Laravel applications like starting the application, stopping the application, running migrations, and so on. So that is the artisan. You're going to study artisan, PHP artisan, or the Laravel artisan. So if I want to start my application, I have PHP artisan. And if I actually take help, so you see a list of command that artisan has. Oh, PHP, I'm not inside. Let me enter ls example. You see that the artisan command will work only inside the Laravel application. So PHP artisan help, and you get a list of all the help commands that the artisan has. I mean, you have them here, and you can actually read through the artisan documentation to know what to do when you need whatever. Okay, so I want to start my application. So PHP artisan, I use the serve command, which is going to serve my application for me. So it's going to start these applications, and it renders the port where I can, or yeah, the port where I can access this application, which is our localhost 8000. Okay. If I try accessing this port, let me just copy this. I copy this and paste here. Oh, what I paste? Localhost 8000. Oh, okay. Let me see. See Laravel local, and I'll set this to local host. Okay, this would be better. And I have my Laravel application up and running. So you see the default Blade template, which is here. Let me show you that. So you have this welcome.blade.php, which has this bunch of code here. Okay, this is just HTML, CSS, Bootstrap mixed together, and then you have an aspect of Blade. Okay, this one is Laravel's front end engine. I can actually use to code front end applications, like the full stack applications. You have this default Blade template, and this is what is being rendered here. Okay, so you see it here. If I click on documentation, this one literally take me to Laravel's main documentation. And you can edit this guy by, say, if I just want to show say just this, and refresh this, you get, so you see with the scaffolding that is offered to you, you can do a lot of things, like you can write HTML here, like HTML5, and it's a Laravel. And let's see, let me get some container here. Hello world, and let me get some sample bootstrap. Okay, so I have bootstrap, and if I refresh this application now, you get just our hello world, which is printed to the screen. So you see, you can start from here and see how to build, right? So this is how your Laravel is done. But the thing is, when you start this application, what happens? Why are you able to see this? Because normally in HTML you have index.html so ever, and that is what is able to detect that this is what should be done. There is what they call Laravel routing, and this simply maps your request to the logic that it should perform. Okay, that's what the route does. Now, in the routing, I'll talk about the two main types of routing. You have the API route and you have web route. Okay, if you're building your full stack application, you likely use the web route because you are like kind of you're working with Laravel and Blade at the same time. But if you're building just backend application, just backend like APIs, you use the API.php. Okay. So this is what the API.php has. And since we are working on web route, okay, this is the default route. And this one, you see the use, illuminate, support, facades, and then route. This is basically a class that has kind of done the logic for routing. You remember the funny routing we're doing in object-oriented PHP and the PHP? Yeah, so that logic is handled here. And if you want to even look at it, you see a lot of static methods that have been defined, and they say extends facades. If I open facade, you see, I mean, there is a lot of code in this. So if you want to actually understand what is going on behind routing and so on, you need to study all of these classes or get videos and watch. Okay. So you see that it is still inside the vendor. So your vendor folder is usually very important. Okay. So in the web route, we have that the default uh, path should be this forward slash, and immediately we encounter just this path, we are able to render this view. Now, this view is also what? Another kind of class that kind of renders your front end. Now, the view calls the welcome, and the welcome is inside these resources, views, and welcome.blade.php. So if we had another view called another, or let's say contact.blade.php, then HTML5, and let's call this contact. We have container contact us, right? So this is another view that I've created. The thing is, if we try to access the contact here, there's nothing called contact, and you get this 404 error that you see Laravel has already done the logic for you. Okay, so you get a 404 error because you have not routed. Okay, so if I go back now to my web.php and I route let's say this contact, right? And we have this callback function to render the view contact. We are able to refresh this and see contact us. Okay, so this is what the route does. Okay, now this one is just about rendering views. You have route methods like route get, you have route post, depending on the user request. Now you literally know what all of these are doing. Okay, get is literally just rendering data. Okay, post is sending data to maybe say the backend to be processed. Put is an aspect of update, put and patched. Then you have delete, that is for the delete request. Okay, so all of this they have their roles. For example, uh, I'm just giving you guys an overview of all of this. You can study Laravel, like you already have the videos. Now, we have what they call MVC, model, view, and controller. Now, the route is going to get a request from the view and kind of send that request now to the appropriate controller. That controller may want to use your model, which is the database, right? So that is the aspect of the model view controller here. For example, if we just wanted, if we wanted to access the contact controller, for example, let me just do stuff here for you. Um, this might be overwhelming at the beginning, but I'm just trying to explain something. So I'm going to make a controller. So you still use the artisan command, PHP artisan make a controller, call it contact controller, right? And this is, oh, I am still not inside where I'm supposed to be. So cd, for example, app. Okay, so I have this controller created, and you see where the controller So you see, when I created the contact controller, guess what is inside? It creates controller, right? Uh, okay, so it creates a class for me. My method here is a public function. It return me the view called contact. So you see that this is method now, and I can decide that in my route.php inside this, I'll not do a callback function. I'll just say contact, right? And this is one of the ways to call it, but with Laravel 9, there's this other method that is preferable, okay? I call the contact controllers class, and then I call the index method. Now, the contact controller, let's see if it is here. I use uh, contact controller. Now, we should be able to access this. So if I click on it, it goes back to this. So within our routes now, we have gotten the request from the user which says, I want to get the contact page. and then you now route it like, okay, this logic says, oh, you controller, this user wants to see the contact page, and the method that handles the contact page is called the index method. So what does the index method do? It just simply returns what? The view called contact. So you see that you could return it like this, like return view contact, and you can also return the view from the controller the way it is like this. Now, this method is preferable in cases where things you have to perform some logic so that the controller actually does perform the logic for you before returning to the view. Okay. So, for example, if in this one I wanted to not return a view, for example, I wanted to just echo out something. Uh, I wanted to echo out something good. This would still work. So that if I come back here and refresh, you see my hello world is printed, right? It's still printed, but I use but echo here. Uh, you return the view controller, it's going to return to this view here, this contact view, and it's going to render this content of the view, right? If I refresh this, you see, right? So that is what the route does. It takes your user request and passes it to the controller in charge of it to process, and then from that controller, it determines what to do next. Okay, so that is what the route does. And your views, like I said, is definitely your front end. Like, yeah, for you who wants to develop a full stack application. Um, let me see. Let me create a simple form here, right? Uh, Simple contact form. Mm, So I have this simple contact form here, and what I want to do is that when I click on this submit, it should send the data to the back end, right? So in this web route, the index.php is going to handle that. Now, since the user is passing in the request, I need to pass in the request here, okay? The user request. And what I want to do is, okay, there's something else. Uh, Public function respond to contact, whatever the method is, and I'm going to pass in that user request, right? And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to return back the user's request. Return uh, request. Now, let's just see what the request contains. Oh, why do I use double bracket before HTML? This one is just a comment, okay? I wrote a comment because I wanted something to happen. This is for commenting. Now, in Laravel, normally in your HTML, you comment using forwards, or in your PHP, you comment using forward slash, but this will happen only in this case, like inside the controller, you can comment using forward slash. But in the case where you are in the blade template, commenting with forward slash because it's HTML will definitely not work. And blade offers a better way to do that. We use uh, the they call it in brackets. Yeah, you use the brackets and then you have dash dash stuff like this. Okay, that's how you comment. So this was not really necessary. I wrote it because I wanted something to happen. Back to this mm, kinds of contact pages. Let me get bootstrap cd, and here to get it from this. So you see why right? I take the name, the email, the password, just like your normal HTML, of course. Let me just pass in something here. It will one. Text center. So I'm able to get contact form. Okay, guys. That's I had a network break. Okay, so I think I was here, right? Hopefully you can hear me now. So I was here and I was saying that what happens is I have this my data that I want to send to the backend, and I fill this form. I have an action that okay, when I click, what should happen? Now there are several ways to perform this action. I could give this a name, like name, and I give it say contact, right? So that if I come here, I could use the route method here. Like so this is how you are able to reference a blade script inside your HTML. So I use route and I pass in the name of the route. This is the best way to do it. So you give each of your route a name, okay? You give each of your route a name, and then you're able to do things. So back to this, refresh this, and autofill. When I click on submit, you get a response of all my data that I passed in to the back end. Do you get now? So when I use, when I fill my data, when I click on submit, it goes to the web.php, and based on the method that is on that route, it is mapped to the controller. So I click on submit. Since I was submitting to this route, it comes to this route. Oh, it says, okay, it's in the contact controller. And within the contact controller, it should be the respond to contact. And if we want to see respond to contact, I just say it should return the request. Now, our request has something called this token, right? This is some kind of security that is implemented at the level of Laravel. This CSRF token, which if you want to check um, what is CSRF token in Laravel, you get that this is generates a token for each active user session managed by the application. The token is used to verify that the authenticated user is the person actually making the request. All right. So this is for security and is used to determine the user that is making a particular request. And in this case, this is a request we are making to contact. Now, when this request goes, it goes with a particular token. And if there is no token, we are going to have a problem. Let me show you that. Like, if I comment this out and save, come back here and refresh. Oh, refresh this. You see page expired. It doesn't know who is making the request. All right. So you mostly get page expired when either your session has expired or your form that you are using doesn't have a CSRF token. So you need to take care of that. Whenever you are making a post request, right, or a put request or whatever, except a get, do you even need a get request? No, most of the time you'll be posting. So whenever you have a post or a put, you need this CSRF token. All right. So if I come back here and refresh this, let me refresh the data and resend the request. So you see, it actually does return the request to us. That is how you are going to use forms in PHP. Oh, is somebody still not getting me? Please, if you are not getting me, indicate. We are almost done even. It's 8 o'clock. So that is how you are going to be able to do requests. Yeah, that's how you are going to be able to work with Laravel. So you see this form alone in the controller, you could do a lot of other logic. Like, for example, you could check, you could validate the request, and I mean, a lot of things could happen. Like, um, yeah, I think I don't want us to go too far. This is how you're going to use Laravel. Now, there are three main places you need to get used to, right? You need to get used to this folder called HTTP because that is where your controllers go, right? So this is the base controller. You don't need to edit this for a beginner. You don't need to edit it. Note that this contact controller extends, so it inherits the properties of the base controller, and this is necessary. Now, you also have this other one called models, right? And this is your kind of your database representation. By default, Laravel comes with the user model, and it has, yeah, so you see the user model is basically also a class that represents the user, and it has this helpers that you can use. You get used to them when you as you keep on coding. So you need these models at the beginning. So you need the controllers for the HTTP, you need the models. Then out of the app, you also need the resources where your views are, right? That's where your views are. You also need the public folder in case you want to do some HTML, CSS especially, and JS. You can put them inside here and be able to reference them. You also need the route. Okay, so in general, you need HTTP folder inside the route, inside the app main folder. You need the models also inside the app folder. You also have the public folder. You also have the routes, right? That is very necessary. You also need it. And this .env is the configuration of your application. You also need it. All right. So if I push this application to GitHub now, you will not see the .env file because it is added inside git ignore. And you always need to make sure that you don't push this particular file to GitHub. It may contain some of your credentials that you basically don't want to lose. And you usually have this .env.example because it has example setups for you. So you can now copy this and create .env to handle stuff. And note that if you don't have this .env, your application might not run. Okay, so that is what you have. And package.json is basically for dependencies, JavaScript dependencies, and Laravel friends dependency because you have things like Vite, you have a lot of other things that you might need to put inside here. Yeah, README is just for your documentation. So that's basically what you need in Laravel. You can actually get to do a lot of other things. There is this task that was created. I'm not sure if you people are going to get that task this year to create a simple CRUD application, an application that I can be able to create an item, read the item, update the item, and yeah, other things. Okay. Yes, guys, this is where we are going to end today. And Sugar, about updating the image, uploading image, we will have a session on that, just the two of us, okay? Yeah. All right, guys, you guys should have a nice time. At least I've taken you guys through, should I call them tips? Because I've not actually taught Laravel. Just taking you through some things that you might be doing in Laravel, okay? You have courses that Rufus, is it Rufus? Yeah, my colleague last time he actually did produce some courses, and you have them. If you guys have time, even within the project phase, we can be learning Laravel. Okay, it depends on you guys. How yeah, those who are interested, we can actually keep on going. Guys, you guys should have a great night, right? Nice time. Oh, did I not answer a question? Which question was that, please? Let me check. Samuel, let me see. Samuel, what's the question, please? For some reason, I have issues cloning. Samuel, I can't see any question coming from you. No, I've not done that yet. In fact, let me export that right now and send it to you. Sorry, localhost slash PHP my admin. Um, I'm just going to export the database and add it to the file. So let me open the file recent. Um, okay, is this project? Okay, databases, and we have, what's the name of the database? All right, so I'm just going to export these tables and send to you. Hopefully that's going to help, right? So export name PHP Zuri, whatever the name is, and go export that to SQL. And let me see. Okay, let me see if I can add that file here. Oh, I've added it somewhere else. Open recent PowerShell. Why is it not opening? So I'm going to do that, please. I think we're out of time, and a mentor might be wanting to kick me out right now. Okay, my system is disturbing right now. I'm just immediately after this call. I'm pushing it immediately after this. Okay, guys, you guys should have a nice time.